Hey, what's going on? Second and nine, fam. We're back for a quick live stream before week 11. Tony D is on vacation currently still, and I think he went on a little excursion, so he's not going to be joining us this morning. But I thought I'd do a quick live stream and touch on like the week 11 games. So to start off, we'll start off with the Jets Redskins game, which is being played in Washington. Dwayne Haskins is the quarterback there. The over under is really low, 37 and a half. My pick this week is going to be the New York Jets at +2. I don't really have a huge amount of confidence in them this week, but I just think with the way that the Jets can stop the run and the Redskins only necessarily being able to run the ball, especially with a guy like Darius Geis back. I think it plays into the Jets' hands this week, and hopefully Sam Darnold throws more touchdowns than he does interceptions, and the Jets can pull this one out. So I feel fairly confident on that number right now in terms of like the getting 2 points for the Jets. Next pick is going to be the Dallas Cowboys game since the Giants are off this week on bye. Dallas is in Detroit, and the spread, I believe, is currently 7 points. So I'm going to be taking the Detroit Lions in this game, simply like from the points. I know Detroit tends to be a tough team to play against at home, and I haven't necessarily been blown away by the Cowboys this season, but I think at the end of the day, Cowboys should probably win this game, but I will lean towards taking like those 7 points with the Detroit Lions. Next would be kind of a tough slate this week, but I'm gonna actually go against Buffalo Phil's advice, and I'm gonna take the Miami Dolphins +7. They're on a 2-game win streak, surprisingly enough. They're going back home to play Buffalo. They played Buffalo actually relatively tough a few weeks ago when they played in Buffalo. But yeah, I think the reason why I'm leaning the Dolphins this week with the 7 points is just mainly because the Bills' rush defense hasn't been able to really stop anybody recently, and then also the fact that the Bills' offense has been kind of anemic. I think I need to see a little bit more from Josh Allen to be able to hit some more downfield passes. They have a guy like John Brown who's a good deep threat for the offense. So they've been kind of disappointing in terms of their performances of late. Last week, obviously, they go to Cleveland. Cleveland's kind of going in a different direction. They're trending upward, even though they're still behind in the standings. But the Buffalo Bills, if there's any week for them to get right offensively, I think this is it. So yeah, they should win the game. But in terms of like the point spread, I'll take Dolphins +7. Next one is the Minnesota Vikings at home against Denver. The big statement win, obviously, last week from Minnesota, going to Dallas and winning that game by 4 points. I think maybe that's like the first hurdle that Kirk Cousins has to get over that primetime game, I guess, type of curse that he has upon him, that hasn't necessarily performed well in those games. This one, though, sets up perfectly for him. Bad Denver team at home, 1 o'clock. 9.5 point spread does not scare me at all. It could be somewhat of a close game. I personally think it's going to be a blowout. So yeah, take the 9.5, and I'll take the Minnesota Vikings. And then in terms of a deep sleeper, maybe I would say this is maybe a little bit more for dynasty leagues if you're doing fantasy, or even potentially going forward, especially if Adam Thielen's injury continues to linger with his hamstring. I definitely was a fan when he was at Ole Miss. And I'm talking about Laquan Treadwell. I think he's a guy that if there's any game that he can actually have his breakout game in, I think this is definitely one of them. Obviously, they're coming off with a big win. I think that there's a lot of points to be scored on the table for this game. Diggs should be the one that the Denver is really keying on in terms of like how they're playing defensively, and I think it should open up different areas of the field, like for Laquan Treadwell, and I think he could potentially be a playmaker. So I think he's a guy to keep an eye out for, possibly in like daily fantasy. He could be a really cheap option that you could pick up, and I can I can see him having 80 yards, 90 yards, and a touchdown easily in this game. So yeah, I'm big on Minnesota Vikings this week. My fifth pick is that this one I actually had a lot of trouble really keying down on one more pick this week because a lot of the spreads that Vegas is sending out, they're getting really good at it. So my last one, after a lot of deliberation, is Chicago Bears +6 at the Rams. Now, I don't have a ton of confidence in this game, but I think that this game is going to be won like in the trenches. I think Khalil Mack's going to have a big impact on this game, and the Rams haven't showed me what I thought that they were going to be going into the season, offensively speaking, at least. I think that the Rams defense has some holes at times, and they can be gutted. I don't have a lot of confidence in Mitch Trubisky, but I think at the end of the day, I think the playmaker or the player of the game will most likely be Khalil Mack in this game because the Bears still are a good football team. They just are so anemic offensively. It's hurting them as a whole. And we've talked about it previously on the podcast where if one side of the ball isn't necessarily doing their job and doing a poor job, the time of possession, the field position, it really hinders like the other side of the ball, whether it's offense versus defense or defense versus offense. And I think that the Bears definitely have been they've been hurt by that this year. There's no doubt about it. Like, with the way that Mitch Trubisky has had so many like different 3 and outs, it's been really tough sledding for them offensively. But I think with the 6 points, I'm going to take it because I really don't trust the Rams yet. They have to continue. I think that they have to play a lot better defense for me to start considering them back in like that upper echelon of teams. So yeah, those are my 5 picks. It's a Detroit with the 7 points, Miami with the 7 points, Jets getting 2, Vikings -9.5. I think that's the one that I feel the most confident in this week. And then the Chicago Bears at +6. I think we're going to cut it short this week since Tony D is off and I'm riding solo. So, yeah, I think one of the other guys too, before I shut off for the day, Hunter Renfrow was a guy that we talked about in the last podcast with Buffalo Phil, hence the name Hunter reference for like the title of the podcast name. And I think Hunter Renfrow, I'm going to make a prediction this week. I think he goes for 7 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. So he's another guy, if he's available, I think this is a prime week for him to have a breakout game, kind of like Laquan Treadwell. But I feel even better about it for Hunter Renfrow this week, being at home against the Bengals in the black hole with that terrible defense. I mean, the spread has moved a lot. And the only reason why I didn't touch this game was because the spread has moved so much, where now it's at 12.5. It was previously at about, I think, 10.5 right at the beginning of the week when they brought the spreads out. So this game has a blowout written all over it. So yeah, give me some Hunter Renfrow. And I think with that Hunter reference, we'll close up shop for the day. We'll talk to you guys again next week. 2nd and 9 podcast. Signing off.